Well, good morning. This is Plant Smart Living with Farmer Fred. Really glad you could join me today out here in the vegetable garden. It's a beautiful day here in Pennsylvania, Zone 6. And it's early spring here. We have at least another month to go until our last frost date. And so today I thought I would share some tips and ideas on how you can direct sow bright light Swiss chard in your garden. So thanks for joining me today. So here in our family, my wife and I, we just love Swiss chard. You know, I grew the other variety, Ford Hook Giant. And, you know, a couple years ago I had one leaf that was 24 inches long, and from the bottom of the stem to the top of the leaf it was 42 inches, you know. And so, but we just love the bright lights here. It's nice and colorful. And, you know, behind every seed pack, they do give you some helpful information here. It says here, bright lights is a rainbow of colorful stalks in red, white, yellow, gold, violet, and orange. Leaves are green or burgundy with colored veins. Very attractive in the vegetable garden or in the flower bed. Use small fresh leaves in salads and steam or stir-fry larger leaves. Cook stalks as you would asparagus. Begin harvest when plant is about 8 inches tall. Pick outer leaves first or harvest entire plant. A spring planting will produce all summer if it is kept picked. And this is also drought tolerant and heat tolerant. It also can be decorative, and you can grow this in a container on your patio, you know, as long as you have 4 to 6 hours of sunlight. And then your planting depth is says 1/2 inch here, but I go anywhere from 1/2 inch to 1 inch. And then you can thin the plants to about 12 inches. And then, you know, you want a minimum like 4 to 6 hours of sun. You know, anything that's like a leafy green like your kale, Swiss chard, and so on, they require 4 to 6 hours of sunlight. Anything with a root or a fruit like a tomato or a melon or a potato, they require at least 8 hours of sunlight. So the more, the better. And as stated here in the back of the pack, this is pick and come again. So as long as you pick the outer leaves, you know, you can continue to harvest right through the season. And so, you know, this pack was under $2. And I only used half of the pack last year. So I have the other half here and in the pack that I'm going to be planting today. But you can supply your family all season long with, you know, with greens for under $2. And so you can really save a lot of money. Plus you get the enjoyment of growing your own leafy greens. So why don't we head over and I'll show you where I'm going to be direct sowing these in the garden. So let's head over to that area over there on the far end. And so underneath this row cover here, this low tunnel hoop house, I have some lettuce growing and some cauliflower. And then the one on the left here, I have some kale seedlings under there, and I grew some direct sowed some red beets and also one other variety. And so right here is where we're going to be direct sowing these bright light Swiss chard seeds. Also behind this seed packet, you know, it says to sow after danger of frost and soil worms. And so, you know, I'm going to be covering these with some of my spun bonded polyester that's going to keep them warm and help warm up the soil. So, you know, or if you even grow them or direct sow them underneath the low tunnel hoop house, you know, you can sow your seeds a couple weeks or even up to a month before your last frost date. You know, especially like kale is a cold hardy plant. And like I said, I'm going to be covering these with my spun bonded polyester. Also, I'm going to be growing these in my we're planting these in my composted leaf mulch that's amended with topsoil. Now I already added some alfalfa pellets and I sprinkled some soy meal on top. And so you also want to make sure your soil's nice and loose. So, you know, you want to make sure you work through your soil with your garden fork. Now, you know, years ago I used to use a gas-powered rototiller, but you know, that disturbs the soil web, and it's also a lot, you know, you have to always add gas to it and keep it running every year. But just using the garden fork now that I have raised beds is it's a no-dig, no-till method, and it just really works great. So you just want to make sure you work through your soil, you know, a good 10 to 12 inches, and that way your roots will spread far and wide. And so go through your soil. You can see how easily that goes right in. I also top these beds off with about 2 to 3 inches of my composted leaf mulch every season, and so it's a nice fresh layer. And then these alfalfa pellets are going to add some nice organic matter. It's also going to add some nice nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And then the soy meal is another nice all-natural slow-release fertilizer. So now that that's all nice and even, I'm going to run through it with my rake and level it off. So I'm just going to use the back of my rake here and level this soil off. You want your soil to be nice and fine when you plant your seeds. That way they make good contact with the soil. And so now, with that all leveled off, I'm just going to take my little hand trowel here and come in about 6 inches or so and just use the corner of my hoe here. You could use a trowel, and I'm just going to make a furrow right down the row here. Something very easy to do. You want to make sure there's no big clumps. You know, you can also just run your finger down. You can see how nice and loose it is. And so I'm going to grab my seeds here. And this is about a 6-foot row here. I had about, probably 20 seeds in here. And what I'm going to do is plant these every couple inches apart. And then once they get about 2-3 inches, I'm going to thin these out and then plant them in other places in my garden. And so I'm going to simply just pour all these in my hand here. And then just start laying these right in the soil. Maybe about 3 inches apart. And it's a beautiful day here. I can hear the birds chirping behind me. And so I'm just going to simply finish laying these right in the trench here. And that should about do it. And so what I'm going to do is just take my hand and gently push it back over the furrow, cover those seeds up. Again, you want to make sure that your seed bed is nice and fine. You can take your hand and pack it down if you want. Use the back of the trowel, you know, it works pretty well. And then I have my cloth here all set up where I'm just going to lay that right across. And then I'm going to water these in. So let me get my watering can here. And you know, this row cover here over the seeds is going to, you know, keep the animals on there. Also heavy rains, you know, it's going to not disturb the soil. And you want to make sure you keep these seeds well watered and that they don't dry out. And these seeds will take anywhere from like 7 to 10 days to germinate. You know, the optimum soil temperature for these seeds are around 50 degrees, 60 degrees. You know, once the soil starts to warm up to like 70 degrees, then the soil microbes really begin working in the soil, breaking down that organic matter so that the plants will be able to take up those nutrients. So anyhow, I just want to thank you for joining me today out here direct sowing these bright light Swiss chard seeds. And if you have any questions or comments about this video, feel free to leave them in the section below. And you can also visit us at plantsmartliving.com to learn more about gardening and how you can reclaim your health by adopting a plant-based lifestyle. So anyhow, I just hope you have a wonderful day today. So until next time, this is Plant Smart Living with Farmer Fred.